Omagyanatmirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitan Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Panchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Our Dandavat pranams to all. Happy to be here with all of you as we continue this journey into Srimad Bhagavad Gita, the hidden treasure, the sweet absolute. So I'm going to start our screen share. And I'm a little more organized than I was last week, with little help from our friends. And so, as I recall, we finished going through, we went up to verse 40, and perhaps we didn't finish discussing all of them. We can just have a quick review of, I remember definitely going through 38. This is a wonderful verse. We were discussing in our meeting yesterday too, this description of this state of equanimity, right, in the midst of beautiful Sanskrit, sukha, dukkha, labha, alabho, jaya, jayo, ajayo, right, happiness, distress, gain, loss, victory, defeat, to be able to maintain this state of equanimity. This is one definition of yoga, actually. And we had this interesting discussion yesterday, right, that you know, there's this kind of contrast and there's a transition that takes place when we're entering the plane of bhakti. Because yes, one level of understanding is we're trying to become detached from this whole plane of duality in relation to this world, in relation to our own egoistic interest, right? But then when one comes in contact with the plane of devotion to the Supreme Lord, when one enters on the path of bhakti, then the rules all change, right? Then there's another plane of duality that is in connection with the eternal world. Then the rules all change there. So it's an interesting point to consider. But this is like lesson one, right? Becoming detached from our own, you know, our own egoistic world. And then this verse 39, this is quite an interesting concept. Our Gurudev discussed this point too. This is, you'll see in Bhagavad Gita in a few places, this expression buddhi yoga is mentioned, right? And Bhaktivinoda Thakur, there's a commentary here, which is our Gurudev is citing from Bhaktivinoda Thakur, explaining that actually the whole path, sometimes we think of like there being different types of yogas, but Bhaktivinoda Thakur gives us very harmonizing and accommodating vision that actually there's one yoga actually, and there are just different stages of that yoga, different stages of development of that yoga. And we can think of that one path of yoga as buddhi yoga. And the fullest expression of that is bhakti yoga, the opening of the heart in connection with the Lord. And all these other types of yoga, karma yoga, jnana yoga, you know, they're representing different stages in that path of buddhi yoga. So that's one interesting harmonizing view of these different stages of understanding that are presented in Bhagavad Gita. And then this verse 40 is one that's quite often quoted by our gurus, and it's a very important principle that is being discussed. This verse 40, nahabi krama nashosti pradyavayo na vidyate salpam apyasya dharmasya chayate mahato bhayat. On this path there can be no loss and no harm. The slightest practice of such a spiritual ideal saves one from the greatest fear. So this is a very encouraging instruction that's given here in Bhagavad Gita. And it's saying that whatever we gain, and one very nice way our Gurudev Srila Govinda Maharaj expressed this idea is, whatever we gain in connection with the eternal world will have an eternal result. Sometimes it's described as like an infallible bank account. You can only add to it. nothing will ever be, it will only go into more plus. It cannot be subtract. Under no circumstances will it go into minus, or where you lose what's been added there. And so it is a very, very encouraging verse, because, as we have, may have experienced ourselves, with ourselves or with others, we see in others, in the case of others around us, we see that the environment's very distracting, right? And and there are many, many things that will come to trip us up and take us away from our path of eternity. And we see sometimes that persons come, and we ourselves go through different waves of enthusiasm, right? So we see that someone is diving in, going deep, and then at a certain point, they get pulled away or they become distracted in some way, right? Then it can be a little sad, and one may think, oh, all their effort, all their enthusiasm has been wasted. But we're told, no, whatever they've gained is still there. It may be covered over for some time, but they will not lose that. And at a certain point, they will come back and pick it up again, right? And later in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna elaborates on this point further in response to some questions from Arjuna, where Arjuna asked, like, what happens if someone takes up this path of bhakti and halfway through they end up falling away? Then they took a risk. They gave up some of their engagement in the world. They gave up some opportunities to become successful in the world in order to apply themselves to the practice of bhakti. But then midway through, they just fell off the path. Then it's like they've lost on both sides, right? That's something to be worried about. And of course, we understand Arjuna is asking for us, and Krishna tells him, don't worry. I have a perfect arrangement for them. In their next life, I will arrange that they'll take birth in a suitable environment where they can pick up the practice again from where they left off. So there may be temporary setbacks, but whatever one gains on this path, it will never be lost. Such is the loving heart of the Lord. We can think of it like that. And the one exception to this is when there is some envy, criticism, offenses towards the Vaishnava saints, right, who are very dear to the Lord. And that is something that, because actually someone posted a very nice explanation of this recently, but we've heard from our gurus, right? Like ordinary sin in this world, mundane activity, is not so serious in the big picture. It's something attached to our material body, right? But when we make offenses to the saints, then that is something that touches on our soul plane. That is much more harmful. And that is something that can destroy whatever we've gained on the path of devotion. So that is, our Gurudev, Srila Govinda Maharaj, would emphasize that so much, right? And this is also one of the reasons he emphasized these principles of humility, tolerance, and respect, because that mood protects us from making offenses. And our Gurudev, so many times, he said, we don't know who is a sadhu, actually. Like with our mundane vision and estimation of things, how can we recognize who is who? We don't. So therefore, we give respect to everyone. We play it safe. And yesterday, I had this beautiful revelation. It was in connection with one of our devotees, actually, that you see, when we follow these teachings, let me put it like this, when we honor the shastric instructions, when we honor the scriptural instructions, without necessarily having such deep faith or such deep feeling for them, but just honoring that advice, what we're doing is we're leaving space for a higher reality to manifest. Right? So, for example, we're given the advice to respect all, right? And particularly to respect those on the path of eternity, right? Those who are making progress in their relationship with the Lord in the eternal plane, we must be careful in giving respect to them, right? And I had this interesting revelation yesterday, right? That when we do that, we're leaving space for reality to assert itself. I can put it like that. So for example, the experience I had just recently was a Vaishnava who I'm just following the instruction to give respect to everyone, being polite. But I didn't feel that so much in my heart, right? But I'm just, following the etiquette, being respectful. But then the experience I had was that suddenly in one occasion, the real quality of that Vaishnava was revealed to me. And I was struck with some genuine heart appreciation for them. But that was only made possible because I was honoring the scriptural advices, right? The advices of our gurus. Give honor, even though I wasn't feeling that so much. But by following that, I was leaving space for that higher vision to descend, right? So in many things, right? Many of these instructions that we receive, try to control your senses. Many of these instructions, we may be following them a little blindly in some sense, right? But by honoring them, we're leaving space for the higher reality, right? Let's not sign up all our time and energy for a mundane plan. Let's leave space for the divine plan, right? And we can do that just by trying to honor. Like, oh, this is the vision that is given by the great souls. Let me honor that vision. Then we're leaving space for the actual vision to appear, to manifest itself, right? So it's very beautiful. Our Gurudev, he made this one comment. He said, it was something like 90% of the Vedic advices are given just to encourage us to have a mood of respect. It's a very good start. But when we have respect, it's leaving space for something deeper to come. And this is also very much tied in with the whole culture of faith, right? We have faith that these instructions are valuable or helpful for us, right? We may not have a picture, a crystal clear understanding of how and why, but we understand, mommy knows what's best. Mommy knows better than me. So I don't fully understand the significance of this now, but I know that mommy knows best, right? This type of mood can really help us in our spiritual life, right? Just by honoring the vision of higher souls, that we don't have that vision, but we honor that it's a higher vision, and we will follow the advices that are coming from that higher vision. That will help us very much. That will take us far, and that will leave space for the higher reality to descend in our lives in a meaningful way, right? What may start out as a kind of dry practice will eventually become a rich, beautiful reality in our lives, just by honoring that. It's like an invitation, right? And we're honoring the advices of the scriptures and the saints. We're inviting them to enter our lives, actually. We're inviting them to enter our lives, take hold of our hearts, and to reveal themselves in a meaningful way, right? So it is a very, what grace we have. So we've more or less been through the main points. I think we already went through this this verse, this commentary last week with Marie. And the main thing that's being pointed out here, this is from a Vaishnava perspective, right? So there's this expression, Mahabhai, the great fear, right? And normally that's referring to the fear of birth and death. But from the Vaishnava perspective, the great fear also refers to this merging into the oneness of the absolute, right? Ordinary moksha. From the Vaishnava view, this may even be considered worse than than just entanglement in this world, because it's a type of spiritual suicide, a strike, as it's put here. Mukti means a strike. Of course, from another perspective, like it depends how you're defining mukti, right? Because mukti may also be defined as realizing one's loving relationship with the Lord. That's the highest connotation. But generally speaking, mukti refers to this, just merging into the Brahman aspect, right? The impersonal aspect of the divine with no relationship, no service connection, right? So it's considered a type of spiritual suicide. And then there's this verse, which is quoted by Rupa Goswami, Bhukti Mukti Spriya Yava Pishachi. For one within whose heart there are these ghosts or witches of bhukti and mukti. Bhukti referring to the tendency for exploitation, mukti, renunciation. How can the joy of bhakti, or as Srila Sridhar Maharaj would say, how can the noble lady of devotion come to sit in such a heart, right? So that is why we put some emphasis on the process of purification. Right? First, cleanse your heart, and then invite the Lord there. And this verse here, Anya Bilashita Shanyam. This is a very core verse of ours that is given by Rupa Goswami. It's one of the fundamental verses defining what is Shuddha Bhakti, what is pure devotion. There are many different types of devotion, many different mixes, right? Devotion mixed with karma, devotion mixed with dry knowledge, and so on. But we are interested in Uttama Bhakti, as it's put here, the highest devotion, or Shuddha Bhakti, pure devotion, Kevala Bhakti, Ananya Bhakti, exclusive devotion. Different terms are used. And so this is one of the key verses of Rupa Goswami defining that. And one of the things which I appreciate very much about this verse is this point. This translation it's not a literal translation, but this avartam, it's actually referring to a covering. So this is something that's very encouraging that is mentioned in this verse, that we can think of all these things which are anti-bhakti, right? They're like superficial coverings on the soul. Our innate tendency is to love, to serve, to dedicate, be a lover of God, right? That is our innate tendency. And all these other things, they're actually just coverings. They're superficial covering. Peel like an onion, you peel it away, and that beautiful golden self will arise, right? So this is a very encouraging point in the practice of devotion, that it is actually our own wealth. It is there. It is just covered over. It is covered over. It is not something artificial which we need to bring in, but it's already our own wealth. We just need some help in fanning that flame and awakening that spark, right? So what is the highest type of devotion? That which is shunya, free of these tendencies for, whimsical sense enjoyment, tendencies for liberation and exploitation in different ways. And anukulyena Krishnanush, and with that which is cultivated for the satisfaction of Krishna, for Krishna's pleasure. That is the main point. Okay, well then I think we can pick up and welcome. We had quite a few others joining us. Govinda Nandini's joined us. Wow, that's wonderful. And Suvasini Didi's joined us. Angel is here. Lynn has joined us. Welcome, everyone. So I think we can continue then. Does anyone want to bring up any points, or should we continue with our reading and hearing Bhagavad Gita? Okay, then I'm going to play, and I have prepared today, so we're more or less ready to go on to verse 41. I'm going to play our Gurudev chanting these verses.
Neha vikramana shasti prattavayu navittati shalpama pasya karmasya trayati mahatu haya व्यवसायात्मिका बुद्धि इरेके ह गुरु नंदन बहु शाखाच्छरन्ताश्च बुद्धयो व्यवसायिनाम् जामिमां पुष्पितां वाचं प्रवदन्त विपश्चिता वेदवादरता पार्थ नन्नदस्तीति वादिनः कामात्मानः सर्गपरः जन्म कर्म फलप्रदां क्रिया विशेष बहुलां भोगैश्वर्य गतिं प्रति भोगैश्वर्य प्रसक्तानां त्वयापहृतचेतसा व्यवसायात्मिका बुद्धि समाधौ न विधीयते त्रैगुण्य विषया वेदा निस्त्रैगुण्य भवार्जुन निर्द्वन्द्वो नित्यसत्तस्थो निर्युग क्षेमयात्मवान् जावानर्थयुदोपाने सर्वतः संप्लुतोदके तावान् सर्वेषु वेदेषु ब्राह्मणस्य विजानतः कर्मण्येवाधिकारस्ते मा फलेषु कदाचन मा कर्म फलहेतुर्भूर्मा ते सङ्गोऽस्तकर्मणि योगस्थः कुरु कर्माणि सङ्गं त्वक्ता धनञ्जय सिद्ध सिद्धो समो कृत्वा समर्थं योगयुज्यते दूरेण छवरं कर्म बुद्धियोगात् धनञ्जय बुद्धौ शरणमन्विच्छ कृपणः फलहेतवः बुद्धियुक्तो जहातीह उभेषु कृतदुष्कृते तस्माद् योगाय युज्यस्य योगः कर्मसु कौशलम् कर्मजं
All right. Govinda Nandini, do you feel like reading, leading us in the reading these verses?
Yes. Really.
Okay, great.
How do you want it?
Well, normally what we do is we like, because it's nice, we hear Gurudev, but it's also nice for us to vibrate the Sanskrit ourselves. So normally someone will lead the reading and we'll all follow.
Read the Sanskrit, the transcription, and
We
the
normally
translation.
chant the Sanskrit first altogether, and then the English afterwards. But as you feel inspired.
Okay. So now I shall read the English.
Oh,
I'm a little lost, sorry.
will you lead us in the Sanskrit? Your Sanskrit's pretty good, no?
Okay. Vyavasayatmika buddhir ekeha kurunandana bahu shakha yanantascha buddhayo vyavasayanam. Oh, yam imam pushpitam vacham pradantya vipashtitaha vedavadarata partha nanyat astiti vadina karmatmanaha swarga paraha janma karma phala pradam kriya vishesha bahulam bhogaishvaja gatim bhogaishvaja prasatkanam taya parita chetasam vyavasayatmika buddhi samadho na vidhiyate traigunya vishaya veda nistraigunya bhavarjuna nirdvando nitya sattvasto niryoga kshema atmavan yavan artha udapane sarvata samputodaki tavan sarveshu vedeshu brahmanasya vijanata.
You know, Govind Nandini, we're getting some like breath, it sounds like, around you. Is your mic in an awkward place, or? It sounds like some rustling noise.
Oh, yes. Maybe we are about to have a storm. Maybe I'm having some connections problems because with my mic and my
You
microphone.
sound fine right now, but when you start reading, then it comes. Maybe.
Oh, maybe it was a coincidence.
Okay, carry on. Don't change your position.
Let's let's try one more and see what happens. Karmani vadhikaraste ma faleshu kadachana ma karma fala returbur mate sangosto karmani. What about now?
Yeah, you're good. It's fine now.
Yogasthar kuru karmani sangam tyaktva dhananjaya siddhya siddhyo samo bhutva samatam yoga uchate. Durena hiavaram karma buddhi yoga dhananjaya buddho sharanam ambicha kripana falaheta. Buddhi yukto jahatiha ubhe sukrita dushkrite tasmad yogaya yujasya yoga karmas koshala.
Okay, great. Thank you. It came back again, that noise. Maybe it is the thunder or something, huh?
The what?
Is that thunder? It came back again.
No, not yet. No thunder.
Oh, I don't know what it is. Strange. Okay, well, and also welcome. We had Axel join, Shama Gopal, also Narottam Prabhu joined us. Really nice turnout today. Do we have any volunteers to read the English? Mostly everyone's got their cameras off today. Any volunteers to read the English?
I can go, Gangalila here.
Okay, great.
O descendant of the Kuru dynasty, resolute intelligence dedicated to me is one-pointed. I'm its only objective, but irresolute intelligence is splayed by endless desires for mundane enjoyment. O Partha, unwise persons, not knowing that the chief directive of the Vedas is the attainment of the supreme truth, are fond of interpreting the fleetingly enchanting words of the Kama Kanda section of the Vedas as ultimate. Their hearts are filled with desires, and their goal is heaven. They advocate the many sacrifices and rituals. They yield wealth, worldly pleasures, and high birth. Thus, attached to enjoyment and opulence, deluded by these flowery words of the Vedas, they do not attain the resolve to dedicate themselves to the Supreme Lord. O Arjuna, the Vedas deal with the three modes of material nature by accommodating fruitive action and liberation as an allowance and incentive for persons who are ignorant of the true objective of the Vedas. I'm trying to make it bigger, but it doesn't work. Oh, thank you. Now I don't know where we are. Oh, but you, Arjuna, give up duality and all pursuits for gain and preservation. Stand over in the plane of truth, and by the yoga of wisdom, transcend the modes of nature. The objective of the Vedas is transcendental, without fruitive action or liberation. O Arjuna, follow the transcendental path of devotion to the Lord as taught by the Vedas. As all the purposes served by several ponds can be served better by a large lake, similarly, the fruits of worshipping the various gods by their respective Vedic prayers are surpassed by serving me. The knower of Brahma, who thus knows the purport of the Vedas, fulfills all life's objectives. Your right is to your work, never to the fruit. Be neither motivated by the fruit of action or inclined to give up action. O Dhananyaya, give up the ego that you are the doer and be equipoised in success and failure. Thus stand firm on the plane of yoga and do your prescribed duties. Such a state of balance is indeed known as yoga. O Dhananjana, fruit of action.
Dhananjaya.
Dhananjaya, thank you.
Name
O
for
Dhananjaya, O Dhananjaya, fruit of action is far inferior to the yoga of wisdom. Those motivated by the fruit of their actions are misers, therefore seek refuge in the selfless wisdom of equanimity. The wise person abstains from both good and bad actions in this world. Engaged thus in yoga, as yoga is the art of all works.
Okay, great. Thank you, Pandita.
Welcome.
Well, some key points brought up here. Does anyone want to bring up any thoughts? Anything comes to mind from what we've been through? And one thing I think I didn't mention yet, as we've been going through this chapter too, it's quite a significant chapter. One interesting thing about it is that it actually, like normally the chapters of Bhagavad Gita are all dealing with a specific type of yoga or specific subject matter. You know, some chapters are dealing more with karma yoga, some are dealing more with bhakti yoga, some dealing more with jnana yoga. But this chapter 2, it's actually is in one sense a summary of all the teachings given in Bhagavad Gita. It's sometimes referred to, one of our, maybe it's Bhaktivinoda Thakur, one of our gurus refers to it as the Sutra Bhagavad Gita. Like all the points are represented in a concise way in this chapter 2. Srila Swami Maharaj Prabhupada, in his edition of Bhagavad Gita, he actually names this chapter Contents of the Gita Summarized. So there are some key verses here defining, you know, some of the different yogas. And we've been through a couple of them just now. Anyone want to share any thoughts? Govinda Nandini, what about you?
I just had a very like when he mentions the sacrifices, the mind that is involved in various sacrifices. How is it let's say, adapted to our circumstance in Kali Yuga?
You sure there's nothing rubbing on your mic? Because it's happening again. There's nothing rubbing on it, no?
Yeah, no.
It's very strange. What did you say about sacrifice?
Verse 42,
43, is it?
Yeah, when he
Yeah, 43,
rituals.
they advocate the many sacrifices and rituals that yield wealth, worldly pleasures, right birth, that one. What about
how do we adapt this verse for our reality in Kali Yuga?
Pushpitam vacham. This is a nice expression. Flowery words. Pushpitam vacham. Flowery words of the Vedas. Okay, so nice question. Well, I suppose actually yesterday in our meeting yesterday I was mentioning how you know, all these like there's this whole section, they're into this like manipulation of consciousness and manipulation of the material energy, things like the law of attraction, right? Like people, they have different practices and kind of like exercises in consciousness which they use to like manipulate the environment in their favor, right?
How is it?
you know, like I'm sure you've heard of like the law of attraction and like affirmations and things that people do like to attract wealth and things like that. which is all fine, but it's just dealing with a temporary plane. It's all giving a temporary result. And it's a type of manipulation, and it's borrowed energy in the end. So it's a bit of a dangerous game. But anyway, I'm slightly going off topic. I would say, right, any type of practice of devotion that is mixed with the desire for our own gain, right? I mean, I think that's something that's maybe in this modern age, you know, people aren't going through these elaborate sacrifices and rituals, but people, they may have different types of spiritual practices which they engage in with the end goal of becoming more successful in different ways, right? I mean, like, for example, it's in the Vedic culture, it's also in different strands of Christianity. Like, you may have heard of this prosperity gospel. You probably have a different name for it in Brazil. But
I think
like,
it's the same thing.
Oh, they use the same word, huh? Yeah, prosperity
I think
gospel.
so.
This idea that if you worship God, you'll be successful. And
Mm,
in fact, when I was in Brazil one time, I remember someone telling me about a church that was selling plots of land in heaven.
oh.
Right? Or, you know, there are some churches like they'll excuse you of your sins if you pay this much money, and
Yes,
all
I think
kinds of things like that go on, right? So I would say
yes.
it would translate like that. Karma Mishra Bhakti, right? Devotion mixed with worldly desires, worldly ends. But this actually, what's being described here is probably not even at that level. There's no bhakti in here at all. It's just pure karma, karma kanda, right? I think that's more what's being described here.
Just with a material goal.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's like, people who may live a pious life, a life of charity, but because they're creating good karma for themselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a whole thing. And
Yes.
this, what's very nice, one of the things that's very nice here in Bhagavad Gita is all of this is being put in clear perspective, because it's saying that actually, right, the real goal of the Vedas is to bring us to realization of the absolute, right? That's the real goal, but it's like a step ladder system, right? The Vedas are giving knowledge in stages. And so at a lower stage, they're just trying to encourage people to listen to them, right? And so they're, it's like the daddy gives the medicine and the candy, with the sugar candy to their child, right?
Mm.
So the Vedas are like that at a lower stage of instruction, right? Just listen to us, follow us, worship God in some way or another, and you'll have a happy life, right? But that's not the actual goal of the Vedas. The goal is some, higher realization, right? Then finally, the Vedanta Sutra, Atato Brahma Jigyasa, right? Okay, now you've finished the stage of your karma. You've understood that's all useless. Now search after spirit. And then beyond that, Bhagavatam is replacing that Brahma Jigyasa, search after dry spirit, with Rasa Jigyasa, right? The Sridhar Maharaj expresses. The search for rasa, the search for love and divine relationship, loving relationship with the Lord. That's at the highest level. So it's all being given in stages, but foolish, ignorant persons not ready yet, they're just taking this at face value, right? Oh, the Vedas are saying it's okay, do whatever I want. As long as I go to church on Sunday. As long as I give my 50 rupees, right? Or whatever it is. religious trade, right? It's a thing. Spiritual trade. I wanted to this verse is very, very nice. This verse 41. It uses this expression vyavavasatmika buddhi. This refers to this one-pointed intelligence, resolute intelligence, as it's put here. And we hear that Srila Swami Maharaj Prabhupada, he had an epiphany when there's, I actually have it here. I have my copy of Gītā here. There's a commentary by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, which is absolutely extraordinary, on this verse. And we hear that it was reading that commentary, Swami Maharaj Prabhupada had this major epiphany, and it was a part of his inspiration, like to go to the West and to spread this message, spread his Guru's message. So I want to read this. I have it here. So this is Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's. The style of this commentary is a little different. It's not written in the style exactly of a commentary, but it's like he's paraphrasing. He's representing the mood behind this verse. It's in quotes. Here's an example of what is this vyavavasatmika buddhi, this one-pointed consciousness. So I'll read this. It's absolutely wonderful. My sadhana, so my practice, right? My sadhana is to serve the lotus feet of the Lord, to remember and glorify him as instructed by my Guru. That is also my goal, sadhya. It is my life-sustaining medicine, for I cannot give up the sadhana and the sadhya. This is my most desirable object, my duty, and nothing else is my duty. Nothing else is desired, even in dreams. There may be happiness or sorrow. Samsara may be destroyed or may not be destroyed. That is no loss for me. Let there only be resolute intelligence fixed in pure bhakti. Isn't that beautiful? Very wonderful verse. Let's see what else we have here. So Krishna is speaking about this. So Trigunya Vishaya Veda. Trigunya is referring to the three modes of material nature, right? So these instructions, which we were just mentioning, this pushpitam vacham, these flowery words, flowery instructions of the Vedas, which are pertaining to mundane achievements. These are dealing with the modes of material nature. They're not connecting with the higher plane, the soul plane. They're dealing with this lower plane of our mundane existence. So Krishna is saying, it's very beautiful actually. Then he's giving this instruction to Arjuna, Nishtraigunya Bhavarjuna. You, Arjuna, you be situated in the plane of permanent truth, nirguna. You be situated in the transcendence, take your stand there. It's a very rousing instruction. Nishtraigunya Bhavarjuna, nirdvandvo, nitya sattva sto. Be situated, this sta is referring to being situated. Nitya sattva, eternal truth. Nirdvandvo, nitya sattva sto. So free from nirdvandvo means nirdvandvo means free from duality, this mundane plane of duality. Be free from that mundane duality, and nitya sattva sto, be situated in the plane of absolute truth, eternal truth. Very wonderful. So, this is one of the principles of the cultivation of Shraddha, faith, right? By serving me, the Lord is saying, all purposes will be served, right? I'm at the center, I'm at the heart of everything. Now this verse 47, This is a very key verse in the teachings of karma yoga. Nishkam karma yoga, selfless action. This is one of, there are like 2 or 3 verses in Gita which are kind of like fundamental karma yoga verses, and this is one of them. This karma nyeva dikadaste. And it's a very nice verse, very helpful also. There's a very nice transition to the practice of bhakti from what's being described here. It translates well in the practice of devotion, the teaching of this verse. Your right is to your work, never to the fruits. Be neither motivated by the fruit of action nor inclined to give up action. So you have a right to your duty. Like your reality is in the plane of your duty. We were actually discussing this, I think, just yesterday. That is what is relevant and meaning to you, your duty, not the result of that. So when you go to calculate what your action should be, you shouldn't be considering what is going to be loss or gain to you. Don't be motivated by the fruits of your action. Oh, I'm going to get a better deal on this if I act in this way. No, you do what is right, regardless of what the result is and how it's helpful or unhelpful to you. And don't also be inclined to give up action altogether. Oh, if there's nothing in it for me, then just forget it. I'll just go on strike, right? What's the point? No, there's action. I'm getting an echo there.
I was going to say, we were talking about this yesterday. Yeah,
That's right.
that I had been being pushed to like, what's your goal? What's your 5-year plan? What do you want to do in the future? And I'm like, I don't know what that is, and I gave this example of, but I do know that I want to make herbal medicine, and that I want to sit there and like say the prayers over it and have that ready for when people need it. I don't know what the end result there is, but I'm called to do that work, for instance. Yeah. So yeah, we were talking about this.
That's right. Yeah, thanks for the reminder. I was thinking, yeah, I swear we were talking about this yesterday. Nice confirmation, huh? So like your joy, and this is the thing, right? It's not just a dry instruction, but you'll find true satisfaction in that, right? You'll find true fulfillment, true joy, if you can embrace that principle. To get out of this plane of calculation for one's own gain. There's a higher plane, there's a deeper plane of reality. And following this, embracing this principle help us to realize that. Your joy is to be found in that plane. What is your duty in the now, right? We're also talking about that, the eternal now. What is my duty? Have I done right? And this also came up in one of these earlier verses, this Svarga Dwaram Pavitam. No, which one is that? But this point was brought up earlier, right? When you live according to your dharma, you always win. Because the consideration of success is not made on the basis of material results. But what was your motivation? What was your intention? If you're always acting according to your dharma, you always win. Even if you lost by mundane standards, you've actually won. So you always win. It's always a win-win situation. Because a higher consideration is not looking at the mundane results. It's looking at a subtle plane, the plane of consciousness, right? That verse, yeah. That's right. If you die, you'll go to heaven. If you live, you will enjoy the bounty on earth. You'll win either way. So Dhananjay, give up the ego that you are the doer. And this is also kind of a clue. Give up the ego that you are the doer, to help us to understand some of the points in this previous verse, because this is something that may be puzzling. Like, why am I not entitled to the results of my action? I'm the one who put the hard work in. I'm the one who broke my back. I'm the one who slaved away. It was my idea. So why am I not entitled to the results of that? So the clue to the answer is given in this next one. Give up the ego that you are the doer, because actually we cannot do anything. It's a fact. The nature of this, according to the nature of the soul, the capacity of the soul is a unit of consciousness that has the faculties of thinking, willing, and feeling. So we can will for something, we can desire for something, but we're not actually independently able to do anything. We need to have the cooperation of so many other factors in the environment. Laws of physics, right? The different functions that are under the controls of the devas, right? The gods, they're controlling so many different aspects of the environment, right? The sanction of the Lord in the background of everything. So many things. We can only desire for something to happen. But whether or not that will come about is not actually dependent upon us. Where is actually the source of everything? Where's the source of our intelligence? Where's the source of our strength? We are quite helpless. I like this. Those motivated by the fruits of their actions are misers. Because nothing actually belongs to us, right? So to have this this feeling of ownership, it's a type of miserliness. Right? Nothing actually belongs to us. It's a very narrow-minded way of seeing things. Okay, well, we have a few minutes left. See here, Shama Gopal Prabhu with us. Prabhu, anything you want to share?
No, thank you. I'm just appreciating. I just love hearing the Gita. Yeah, it's just wonderful. So thank you for having this class.
Oh, thank you for joining. Yeah, it's like taking a bath, isn't it? Bathing our consciousness. It's so purifying, uplifting, recentering, recalibrating.
Yeah, every time it's just like simple, but not, just like, right. It's just the, right to the point every time, fulfilling, sounds good, feels good, makes sense on every level. Yeah, it's just a wonderful book. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Let's see, Danny saying, could you elaborate more on that last verse? I don't know if I get why we are misers. Well, I would say, so what is a miser? A miser is someone who doesn't like to share, right? A miser is someone who is selfish. A miser is someone who is not able to see the bigger picture. A miser is someone who isn't a part of the dance of life. It's a very limited, very narrow way of seeing the environment. And it's a miser is also projecting, I think this is the key of it, that a miser is projecting a sense of ownership upon the environment. Right? A miser is someone who projects the feeling of ownership upon the environment. But actually nothing belongs to us. Right? A miser is all about, this is mine, this belongs to me, and I'm not sharing, right? But if we are, second here. Let me open up the verse here. But if we're living in this spirit of, oh, I did this and I created this and this belongs to me, that's projecting a sense of ownership, right? That's saying this belongs to me, but it doesn't actually. It's a very narrow way of seeing things. We can't do anything by ourselves. It's like sometimes I like to give the example. Say we plant some tomato seeds or tomato seeds if you're in America. Plant some tomato seeds in your garden, right? And then after some time you get some beautiful big red tomatoes. Then you go and sell them in the market. Oh, these are mine, right? I grew them, right? I paid the money for the seeds and I planted them and I watered them and I'm selling them. They belong to me, not to anyone else. Right? Prosecutors, trespassers will be prosecuted. If anyone messes with my tomatoes, they're going to be in trouble, right? But let's deconstruct this. Like, first of all, did you create that seed? Have humans actually been able to like mimic human life in the lab? Did we create that seed? Did we create the sun, for that matter? There are many factors. There are different biological processes which are required for the growth of that tomato, which are activated by different forces of nature that have nothing to do with us, right? The wind has a part to play, right? The sun, the rain, the air, different microbes in the soil. There are millions of microbes there are actually millions, if not billions, of different living entities and forces of nature that are involved in the production of a tomato. And we're living in this very narrow vision of reality. Oh, it's our ego. The ego's inflating. The ego just sees I. The ego just sees I. The ego is like this noise that makes us just see ourselves. The ego inflates our own position in any situation. In any situation, we just see our own part, right? This is going on all the time. This is the root of all problems. We're just seeing the I. So this is why wars happen. This is why any type of conflict happens, because we're just seeing the I. What am I getting out of this? How am I being neglected? How are my needs not being fulfilled? But we're actually just one tiny little part of the ecosystem. Like, wake up and smell the coffee. We're just one small part of the ecosystem. There are so many different, just in a little tomato. Can you pass me a piece of fruit? We're going to have a demonstration, folks. A little tangerine here. Like, how many millions of entities and processes are involved in producing this? But it's very miserly to say, oh, this is mine. I planted this and it's mine. It's a very miserly way to live. But if we're more awakened, we'll say, oh, actually, I'm happy to share this because actually it just happened to come within my reality. It doesn't really belong to me. I've been graced. That's the higher view of seeing things. Oh, I planted the seed and I've been graced. I did my part. It's part of my duty of having to maintain myself as a living being so I can continue in my search for God. Right? I have to maintain myself. So I'm planting some seeds with that consciousness. And oh, how kind the Lord has been. He's given me some beautiful fruits. How fortunate I am. It's all a gift. It's all grace. It's all a gift, right? It is we're actually forced into a more generous view of the environment. When we consider all these factors, we're forced into a more generous view of things and a more generous way of moving, because we see nothing really belongs to us. we can't actually do anything without some sanction, right? Without some permission, without some cooperation from the environment, right? So we're forced into a generous vision of life when we see things like that. Does that answer your question, Dan? Okay. Thank you for pushing us to think more deeply on these topics. Anyone else want to share any reflections or bring up a question before we close today?
I actually had a question.
All right, Axel.
Well, I wanted you to reflect on the last verse, verse 50, because I don't really quite understand what it's trying to tell me.
Verse 50, 250. Let me open it up here. The wise person abstains from both good and bad actions in this world. Engage thus in yoga, as yoga is the art of all works. Oh, this is a nice verse, actually. I kind of missed that one somehow. Now, first of all, I'll just mention this yoga karmasu koshlam. This is kind of a famous line, and the art, it's translated often as the art of all works, right? Yoga is a very clever, intelligent way to live and to move in this world. So what it's saying is that actually everything in this world is wrong. In the sense that it's all a dream. In the sense that it's disconnected from our true identity. That mundane help is no help ultimately. Right? Mundane gain is no gain ultimately. So calculation of good and bad in a mundane sense, it has no foundation, because everything in this world is based on a faulty premise. Right? And so that example is given in the scriptures of a dream. There's this famous example given, but I think it's in one of the Upanishads, maybe Govindhanadini or Sivasani can say, someone's having a dream of a tiger attacking them, and they're calling out, help, 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 in their dream, and then they're shouting out help. And you see that, what will you do? Are you going to go grab a stick? Oh, here's a stick to protect yourself from the tiger. No, you're just going to wake them up, right? Because they're having a dream. So it is the case with this world. And there's one verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Dvaite Bhadra Bhadra Gyan Sab Mano Dharma E Balo E Mand E Sab Brahma. To distinguish between good and bad in this world, is foolish, because it's all a mistake. It's all wrong. It's all based on misidentification with the plane of body, mind, and ego. So then what do? We do our dharma, we do our duty. With the spirit of selflessness. We don't entangle our ego with different causes of this world, but we do what duty comes before us. We carry that out in a detached spirit. We carry that out in a detached spirit. Now here's the tricky thing, and I was bringing this up a little bit in the beginning of the meeting. Everything, the rules all change. And this is why Bhagavad Gītā sometimes Bhagavad Gītā is giving us some, we have to see everything in perspective. Bhagavad Gītā is sometimes giving us like level 1 understanding. And there is a level 2, right? So what is level 2 is the connection of devotion. So yes, we can say in this world, there's no good or bad. It's all pretty much one, because it's all happening on the same platform of misunderstanding. So that's why this spirit of detachment is encouraged. That's why this spirit of equipoise and the duality of this world is encouraged. Don't get too involved with it, because it's all based on something meaningless anyway. Here's the thing, the rules all change in connection with Krishna. Why? Because that's the eternal truth. So in connection with the service of Krishna, in connection with our realization going towards Krishna, there is good, there is bad. So if we can help someone in their search for Shri Krishna, reality, the beautiful, that is a good thing. In the real sense, that is good, because that's connected with the eternal world. And on the other hand, if we are causing disturbance to that higher plane, or we're taking people away from that, that is bad, because that's in connection with reality. That's outside of the dream, you see. That's outside of the dream. So, just to elaborate on that, the dream analogy, there are good dreams, there are bad dreams, but it's all a dream. So in the same way, in this world, we can say there are good people, there are bad people, but ultimately it's all based on misconception, right? Oh, this is a very charitable, kind person, but in what sense? It's up to a point. It's not connected with the permanent reality, right? It's just dealing with the cover of things. This is kind of like radical talk, This can be difficult to understand. It can be very difficult to understand. But if we can understand that we are actually Atma, right? Atma is the soul plane, and that's categorically different from the plane of the gross physical body, the mind, and the ego, then we can move towards some understanding. Anything that's taking place in the world of the mind and the ego, whether it's so-called good or so-called bad, ultimately it's all temporary, right? So of what value is it actually? And that's why, we bow our heads. So as an example, we bow our heads to persons of a charitable, philanthropic nature. It is very noble, we appreciate. But ultimately it's a band-aid solution, right? And ultimately, all the problems will come up again if there's not a transformation of consciousness, right? So this, Krishna consciousness, this bhakti yoga is dealing with the root issue. It's getting right to the root of things, not some temporary band-aid solution. Does that make sense, Axel?
Yeah, I'm just trying to puzzle it all together. It's because it's true. It's pretty difficult to understand from the point of view I have, or from my understanding, it's still a little difficult. But you clarified it a lot more for me.
How can I explain better?
I think it's good enough so far. I think as I grow more and dive deeper, I'd get a better understanding. Just as I go forward in my actions and realization and the things I do or the people I meet, I'll find I guess I'll realize it one day, like what the meaning of the verse was. But from what you give me, it's good enough for me for now.
Okay, I'm happy to hear that.
Thank you.
We can see it in this way, right? That, see, this is a world of karma, right? This is a world of action and reaction. Right? Why? Because it's a world of independence. It's a world that's disconnected from the whole. So it's a karmic plane. So there's good karma and there's bad karma, right? But it's all karma. And ultimately, we're not interested in any type of karma. So that's why the advice of karma yoga, this teaching of Bhagavad Gita, is just you do your duty in a selfless spirit. You do what duty is before you. And don't get too caught up in the duality of good and bad in this world. But you do your duty, and that will help to liberate you from the plane of karma altogether. But then the other side of that is that there's a higher consideration, as I mentioned, that which is in connection with the world, with the higher world, above the world of karma. The world that has Krishna at the center. So whatever we can do in connection with that plane, that is meaningful, because that's the eternal plane. But anyway, we can pause there and perhaps continue more at another time. But I hope it helped a little bit. It is a difficult point. It's a difficult point.
Vishaka, just
Yes.
one point. What if we think maybe trying to help Axel?
Yes.
Sometimes we need to make some arrangements because in fact of our condition, our circumstance. What Krishna consciousness gives us is that we know this is not the boast. We know, if we know it, even though if we know it's like far away, but you have this information and you keep it for you. Okay, this is not the best, but I need to do this adjustment because I am in this level.
Right.
Where I still cannot let my house burning in fire and go away.
Right.
And I will try to save my house from the fires. But I know this is something material. This is something from the asat, not from the sat. So
yes, very, very nicely expressed.
The problem is if you get infatuated with this, oh, this is the best. Wow, this is and then you don't get the satisfaction. And then we get into the crazy thing. What about? I did everything, but I'm not, there is something is missing. So you know what is missing. We know what is missing.
Right, there's the relative and the absolute, right? There's our relative circumstances that we're in right now, and there's the absolute plane which we are moving towards, but we're not there yet. We can't pretend that we are. So we're making some adjustment, like you said, right? We're making some adjustment according to our realization at this present moment, right? So
yeah.
Okay, well, I think we'll stop there for today. Unfortunately, this will be our last meeting for a little while. I'm traveling on Tuesday to India for 6 weeks, and we'll resume in March. And I want to thank you all for your wonderful association, and also ask for your blessings for our pilgrimage to the Holy Dham.
Lots of blessings to Vishaka Didi Maharaj ki.
Ciao.
Lots of blessings. We'll be missing you on a daily basis. And Vishaka, do you have any suggestions of when we are too much in separation, where to nectarize ourselves? Like where?
Well, I'll try to keep things put some posts on Facebook and
yeah, so that we
like
know
that.
what videos to watch and what to read and kind of feed our spirits and take this bath like you called it. That was kind of cool, like that. So I can continue taking this spiritual bath.
Well, we have so many beautiful books, and Bhagavad Gita, of course, you can continue with Bhagavad Gita, and we have so many beautiful books.
Yes, I already do the reading. We read every day, but I meant something like, watching a video or something from.
Well, Chinmoy Prabhu is I'm gonna
Yes.
stop.